So this is our webinar about the Jumpstart to Farm Food Safety Year 2 success stories. And I'm going to share my screen and talk about who's here. So today I'm going to introduce the team that is working on the Jumpstart to Farm Food Safety program. I'm Mary Saucier Choate. I'm with Machado from the University of Maine and Adwoa Dankwa from the University of Maine. So together, we're working with farms in Maine and New Hampshire on the program. All right, I'm going to mostly narrate, but Hob is going to jump in. Adwoa, you can jump in anytime you want. And our farmer is Sue Green, who's with us, is going to talk about her farm and what she has done with the Jumpstart program. So a lot of food safety wins. It was amazing how many tweaks were made over the course of the 20 farms that we met with last year. And so none of them were expensive changes. They were easy to do, and you're going to learn about them tonight. Just to put it in perspective, this Jumpstart is a 3-year grant. Last year was the first year. We're on our second year, and we're recruiting farms. 10 farms only in each state each year, but it's free to the farmer. So just because it's a grant from NIFA, USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture. So our goal is to have produce farmers work with us to complete all or part of their produce farm food safety plan. And whether you choose to join Jumpstart or not, if you go to the Jumpstart web page, you'll see these resources. So these are curated links on each of these topics to help you. So for example, for documents, writing an SOP, there's several links to how to do that under the documents section, post-harvest sanitation, all sorts of cleaning and sanitizing resources. So we encourage you to check that out, whether or not you participate in Jumpstart. So the first thing we're going to talk about is why put together a farm food safety plan. So let's talk about that.
So maybe instead of using the chat, we can just talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I'll just give my input, and maybe some of the participants can give them as well. But I think, and I was talking with Adwoa a little bit before this, it's very important to have a farm. We food safety people think that because you have everything organized, you have everything in one place. If whatever you need to go through an inspection, you have everything ready to go. You hand it out to the inspector or someone doing an audit. Maybe it's a buyer that came to make a visit or something like that. Having things organized and in one place will make your life so much easier. And also, we always talk about when you are in crisis mode, if something goes not as expected, and if you do have some information at your farm food safety plan, as an example, the phone of the company to call if you have a spillover of your porta potty, right? And maybe if you are in a rush trying to find it, you might not find it, but if everything in one place, you know where to go to. So that's kind of like my take on how important a farm food safety plan is.
Right. It just shows that you're organized, that you're an organized business. Which is a good thing to show if you're trying to get maybe a grant or a loan also. So we put together some of the other reasons. Right, and we just wanted to point out that even though it's not required, even if you're covered by the Food Safety Modernization Act or FSMA, they don't even have to have one. However, it's a really good idea because there's so many benefits to putting together a farm food safety plan. So it helps you manage food safety risks that you identify, and that's what Jumpstart is all about. But my favorite one is it raises the quality and shelf life of produce. So everything you do for food safety is also increasing the quality of your produce. So it's helping extend shelf life by decreasing the amount of, say, yeast and molds. Forget about pathogens that could make you sick. It also, when you're handling food sanitarily, it prevents spoilage organisms also from getting on your produce. And of course, the quality raises when everyone's handling the food the same way, the same high quality way. Your SOPs can aid in worker training, and your food safety plan, like we said, can make your business look professional when you're going for loans or going for a third-party certification and so forth. Okay, these are some of the things that might be in it: your farm description and map, your SOPs, any records you use for monitoring, any training documents, and your recall plan and other things that are part of your food safety plan. All right, so here's what happens if you decide to participate in Jumpstart to Farm Food Safety. We'll reach out to set up a time to come visit. This, when we started it last year, there was still, COVID was still hanging around. So we definitely can meet on the phone or can meet in person or talk it by email, but an in-person visit really we found was the best way to get a good look at your farm and help you in the most deep dive kind of way. And then we'll help you with a plan to move forward. But you're in charge. You're the one who implements the changes that we might suggest or that we might see that might be a good idea for you to try out. And then once they're in place, we'll ask you how they're going and are they working well and do they need more tweaking. One thing we do for participants is just by participating in the program, you'll get 2 of these hygienically designed scrub brushes. So these are not stapled in, so bacteria can't live down in the base there because it's a one-piece molded brush. So it's easy to clean, and it's important to clean the things you clean with, right? So these really high-quality scrub brushes are just a thank you for participating in the program. All right, and then for folks who let us go deeper with sharing your success, again, we're going to put together materials, maybe a video, to share with farmers after this program is over so they can see, again, the low-cost, effective ways to improve food safety on their farm. Those who let us document further, maybe with a video or audio recording or something, we'll have an additional farm food safety bling. We haven't decided what it is yet. We're hoping the farmers that we work with will help us to decide that too. Okay, so after year 1, so excited to share this. So 10 farms signed up in each state and had an on-site visit. We followed that up with a written review of what we saw and then recommendations for food safety changes or tweaks. And remember, this isn't about like spending a ton of money. It's just tweaking things to make them more food safe. So here we are. We're we're going to feature one of our farmers from year 1. This is Sue Green of Slopeside Farm in Lancaster, New Hampshire. Thanks for joining us, Sue.
Thank you for having me.
So I put a few slides in of photos that I took at Sue's farm, and she's going to explain how she came to do them. So here's the first.
So one of the pieces I learned through the course was having SOPs were really helpful to organize my thoughts about what I'm doing on a regular basis and have a clear written way to perform a task if I wasn't able to be there because I was sick. I'm a one-woman operation, so I needed to make sure I had a backup plan. So this is a simple SOP that I developed from a template that I got from Mary as a resource. And I really wanted just to have something that was really clear. And I wrote it out in about 15 minutes. And then the next time I went in to actually perform the task, I took this document with me and just wrote some notes for things that I was kind of doing in real time that were slightly different than my initial memory. Went back and made corrections. And now this is on file at our farm.
Great. So that is, and this is a really good SOP. All right, let's go to my other favorite thing you've done, which is this. You took that SOP and did this really clever checklist. Want to tell us about this?
Well, one of the pieces of trying to be good about food safety is making sure you have good records. And this is something, of course, I'm like, well, of course I'm cleaning everything, but if you're not writing it down, you aren't really keeping a record. So this is a very simple checklist. I put my the date that I'm doing these tasks, and I just check the box next to the date, and it helps me keep track of what I'm doing in season because we wash and sanitize wash stations, harvest bins, and our storage bins pretty much on a regular basis, but just to make sure that it's being captured.
That's great. All right, and here's another low-cost effective practice you put into place. Want to talk about that?
One of the pieces that I took away from the food safety plan was kind of webinar that we had was thinking about where your feet have been and where they're going. And this was a simple, really low cost way to keep any kind of field dirt, or if I had just gone to see the chickens, to keep the boot dirt, anything that was on there, out of my wash pack station, which I want clean. So the boots would be left at the door, and I slip into these Crocs, and then I could work in the wash pack station without having to worry about cross contamination from anything I brought in from the outside. And then vice versa, I would slip those off and put on my boots again when I went out.
I just love that. I mean, such simple, really effective things. So that's great. And then this is the last thing I have a picture of, or one things that you've done that were pretty good.
So the other piece I learned that was really helpful at the food safety webinar was about the difference in air temperature and water temperature being within a 10-degree gradient. Without the 10-degree gradient, you're at risk for introducing pathogens into the pores of your lettuce. And so we just we fill up our dunk tanks in the morning, and we harvest very early before the air temperature gets high. And then I just make sure that those two temperatures are within 10 degrees of each other before I dump the lettuce into the dunk tank, just to make sure everything is going to be within those standards.
Yeah, I thought that was so great when I visited Sue for the second time just to see how she was doing. This is a magnetic thermometer, so it's right in on the cooler that's in her wash pack area. So it's handy, and I think that's important. It's handy. The shoes are handy, right next to the door. The thermometer's handy. Making things handy. The checklist is handy, right where she needs it. So that's a really effective way to if you're going to put the effort in to think about how to do things differently, making them easy to do, which is what you've done here, Sue. So I think that's great. So thank you so much for sharing.
Of course, thank you.
Tips. So this was a deeper dive a little bit into the infiltration that can happen if your produce that you're harvesting is more than 10 degrees warmer than the dunk tank water you're dunking it into. Right? This is an exaggerated example because they're using colored water to show the infiltration that can happen. And so Sue prevents anything like this from happening by temping the water, knowing the temperature of the produce, and making sure that difference is no more than 10 degrees. Because think of it this way, if you're cold, you want to go where it's hot, right? So if there's pathogens in that cold dunk tank water, they're going to want to go where it's warm, into the warm produce. So you want to keep that temperature difference 10 degrees or less. Anything you want to add, Adwoa or Hob?
No, yes, I think this is a great example of infiltration, these pictures, because you have expansion and retraction, and when you just harvested a piece of fruit, we must remember that they are still alive, right? So those cuts you made just opened, for folks that remember biology class, maybe from high school or something like that, they were exchanging water and other fluids with the soil, with their roots. And the moment you cut, they're still open, they're still alive. So if there's a difference in temperature and they contract, they might end up moving liquids in and out. And we are concerned here about them moving things inside the fruit. And we have here some pictures that show up, and we know that that's probably what happened with the cantaloupe outbreak in 2012. So that's when we started looking with a little bit more attention to this effect, and came up with this: if you have less than 10 degrees in difference, then the contraction and expansion is not as big, and this should not happen.
Great. So now, moving on. So this is the farmer who couldn't be with us because she is on a NIFA trip to Honduras. But she said I could talk for her. So this is another Jumpstart farmer. This is Evelyn Hagen, the coordinator of the Mount Sacred Heart Garden Project in Littleton, New Hampshire. And although she calls it a garden, everyone else calls it a farm. Like all the extension people who've seen it, because it's a big deal. She's wonderful. So this is her farm. She gets out of, like, I think it's about one and a third acre of land. She gets 6,600 pounds of produce that they donate to 3 different food pantries, a weekly community meal, and to feed the sisters in the convent. So they get quite a lot of food out of their land. So here's some of the things that she did, which again, I love Jumpstart so much. I love working with Jumpstart farmers because they're so clever, and they just come up with these solutions that are just easy and inexpensive. So we talked about her packing materials were open to the dust and dirt that was floating around. And I said, you might want to think about, putting those in a place where they're not going to be exposed. And so she just covered them up with a clean tarp or cover. And I thought, that is brilliant. Keeps it free, keeps the animals or bugs, from falling in there, keeps the dust off, does the job. So this is, another one of those clear, easy, inexpensive ways to get the job done. She didn't have a running water to have a hand washing station, a plumbed hand washing station near the field. So she put together this do-it-yourself hand wash station. So you can see there's a water. There's that is clean water. I don't know. It was in a different. I think I'm not quite sure why it doesn't look. It is clean though. There's a soap or paper towels, the catch basin, and off-site. I should have put the trash can in there, but that's her do-it-yourself hand wash station, which I thought was great. And so this is a hand wash station that has something missing, and just wondering if you can see what's missing there. We've got the water container, the soap, the gray water, and the trash can.
The paper towel.
Yeah, that's right. And now this is inside, so it doesn't need to be covered. But if this was if it's going to be permanently outside, you want to have it under something so the paper towels wouldn't get wet. But here, let's show the paper towels. There. So that would be now that this is the complete thing. This is what you need for a hand wash station: the water container, soap, paper towels, gray water catch basin, because you don't want people walking through that dirty water that they just wash their hands with. You want to dump that in a way that's not going to contaminate crops away from the fields. And then you want a trash can for the paper towels.
And just to mention also, Mary, I've seen before farmers that will just have something similar in the back of a truck, whichever truck. They take workers to the field. They might just have it there. They just they park the truck, they set this up. It's not very hard to do it. And I agree, if you can cover it best, but if not, if you have a truck, you could hurry things inside the truck if it starts raining. If not, you live there. So it's not to be something that is extra work for you or too expensive. You can get this done with less than $50. So this shouldn't be an excuse. Cost should not be an excuse to not have a simple solution like this for your workers to wash their hands when they are at the field.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that, Hob, about getting it out of the rain if it does rain, because those paper towels will be useless. And I'm just going to go back to Evelyn's. So see, that's a plastic tub. So into that plastic tub, there's the cover. She throws the soap in the paper towels and covers it up to get it out of the rain if they need to. So, all right. So another thing, and this is something that a lot of almost all the farms that I visited benefited from, talking about the sanitizer they're using and cleaning and sanitizing, that whole piece. It's apparently, Hob and I were at a conference recently that it seems like this is not just New Hampshire, not just New England. Farms everywhere are learning about cleaning and sanitizing as far as food safe sanitizers. So they actually, for this, they were using water to clean the table. No soap, no sanitizer. This is their one of their produce handling tables. And so now they're using. Now again, I should preface this by saying there's and anytime we mention a product, we're not endorsing it or not endorsing it. But in this case, they used this product. This is 7th generation wipes, which worked out really well for them. 7th generation is suitable for food contact surfaces, and it says it right on the back of the container. And I just want to point out, because a lot of folks might be familiar with Clorox wipes. 7th generation wipes are safe for food contact surfaces without a rinse. So if you're just wiping it off, you don't have to rinse it. Now, that's with the wipes. With a Clorox wipe, if you wipe it off and you want to put food on that surface, like produce or whatever you're harvesting, you have to rinse it off with water before you could safely put food on it. So just be aware of that. It's good it's not good. It's only good. It's like something you should do. Read the label to see if it's appropriate for food contact surfaces, whatever you're using.
Yeah, and then again, we are not either endorsing or bad-mouthing any brand. So Clorox or other brand, just make sure that the label mention that it's okay for food contact surfaces. And if it mentions there it should be rinsed, you should rinse. If it says you don't need to rinse or it doesn't mention rinsing, then you don't have to. At the end of the day, just follow the label, whichever brand you choose.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, you could use Clorox, but you definitely have to rinse. And sometimes the fewer steps, the better. So that's why this works for them. So if we're going to chat about it, how do you choose a sanitizer that's safe for food contact surfaces? And actually, I was talking to Sue about this before we started. So I'm going to go to my next slide. And I made this after visiting a few farms and realizing that this is not intuitive at all. So you might think, well, I'm using bleach, but if it just is bleach and it doesn't have this information on the back, like how to mix it up for food contact surfaces, then you have no idea how to make it appropriate. So look at how much is needed for food sanitizing, for sanitizing food contact surfaces. Look at that amount, 2 teaspoons for a gallon. 2 teaspoons for a gallon. Who knew it was that little? No reason you would know. I mean, normally we use bleach for like cleaning the toilet bowl or cleaning laundry, and it's way more than that. But you want to make sure it says sanitizing food contact surfaces. So that's important to find. Not all bleach will have this information on it. And if it doesn't, this bleach on the front of it will say, and I should have put that too, the percentage of sodium hypochlorite in it. And if you then from there you can figure out how much you need, although they spell it out for you, 2 teaspoons in a gallon. But for laundry bleach that doesn't have this on it, it might not have the percentage. So you don't know how to mix it up properly. That's the reason you want to get one that actually spells it out for you. The other thing you want to look at is the EPA registration number. And so I started that on the other part of the block, and that is something that shows that it's been tested to be effective at sanitizing. So you want to look for minimum of those 2 things: EPA registration number and that it shows you how to mix it up for food contact surfaces. This is bleach. There's lots of different sanitizers you could use, but this is the one a lot of folks are using.
Yeah, and something to mention as well, always remember that no bleach that has any fragrance or is the gel or no splash type, those will never be okay for food contact surfaces because they had added chemicals there that are serving other functions. So you never will see one of those with instructions for sanitizing food contact surfaces or washing vegetables. They usually will be just straight bleach. Sometimes they might have the word germicidal bleach, but sometimes they don't, and it doesn't matter. The label mentions food contact surfaces and or for washing fruits and vegetables, and they do have an EPA registration number, regardless of what that number is. That means you are within the law, you're good to go. You can use those as your official sanitizer.
All right, good points about that. All right, so now we're going to talk about the progress in Maine.
Yes.
Do you want me to read this, or do you want to read it?
No, I can do that part. So we did the onboarding training agenda. We wrote some SOPs. Some of the farms that were involved with this, they were able to work in some parts of their project. So we have a couple farms that wrote some SOPs. We realized that one of the things farmers usually need the most are some SOPs regarding the sanitation aspects of their process. So we have some of them that wrote those for the harvesting, the pack room, and also for surfaces. And another one is health and hygiene training document. Those are the 2 big ones. We found most farms would benefit a lot from working on those. And we even had a farmer that got inspired by this idea of writing procedures that they kind of wrote. This is how we actually process the produce, right? That was not our intention because we are focused on the produce safety, but no problem at all if farmers get inspired and start, well, since I'm here, I like this idea of putting on paper how I should be doing things. Sue mentioned that as well, that she did it. She went to test it. She made a little adjustments. And I think that's kind of the entire spirit of this project, to have you guys get a little bit more not professional because you're all professional, but kind of putting literally on paper the way you do things, because that helps you a lot. So next slide, please, Mary. So we created this template for a training. So we shared this with farmers. You can add your farm name and address, your logo there if you want. And we wrote down what we think are the most common areas that you should be training your workers on. So we pre-fill those there. Doesn't mean you need to do all of them. You can change. And we also left some space for other that you could just even just fill in by hand here and use these as your training record, right? But most farmers will be able to open these on a computer and edit a bit and make this their own. And that actually happens. So if we go to the next slide, here we have an example from Brody's Blueberries, a partner farm that worked with us on a lot of other projects, including this one. You can see here that he added a lot of those. He had his own little other options there and start using this as their training log. So the idea that you go over this, you mark an X on the subjects you are covering that day. You are probably not going to do all of this in one day, which is fine. You can do one day, 3-4 items. You put people's name, who gave the training, the date, and you store that. Next time you do the training, you can pick this one out. What have we trained on already? What do we need to train still, or give a refresher? So it's kind of a little bit of a help you know what you have to do and have a record for it, which works pretty well. Next slide. So this was a training agenda and a training day. So this farm, instead of having just the topics, because they already did this, they just didn't have this on paper. So they have, this is the day, the training day with even an agenda, what they do time by time, action items. And I think this was great. And they were happy for also now having this organized in this way. So now whenever and this is a blueberry farm, they work a little bit different. Their season is very short, 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks. So everything a little bit rushed. So they have time to do this the days before they start harvesting. So they can do a full day of training, and then everyone is ready to just pretty much just harvest blueberries for a couple of weeks. Next slide. And here we have some of the SOPs they wrote, and then a little bit of background about why they do this, the type of sanitizers they use, and they even created this how to wash our hands to have it close to their hand washing station. So this all came a little bit from conversations we had, and also this farm being interested in food safety and knowing a little bit already. Again, I mentioned this is a farm that have been participating in other projects, but the inspiration to do all of this came by participating on this project. Next. So you guys are the one creating your farm food safety plan, all your tools and all the examples we are using. You are the ones creating this. If you guys permit, like these farms did, like Sue joined us, we will share those with other folks. So it's the idea here is for us to multiply all this knowledge and make it easier for everyone involved that wants to get involved, or even if you didn't got involved with the project, but maybe you are watching this webinar and you are just deciding to do this on your own. The idea is that this is made by farmers and for farmers as well. Anything else to add, Mary?
No, that's exactly right. That's why it's so exciting. It's like we're walking the farm with our food safety glasses on. You're walking the farm as a farmer, right? So we collaborate. And whenever I love collaborating because we give you some information and then the farmers run with it, which is great. And I think it helps other farmers to see what real farmers are doing. So that's why your information's to the Evelyn's information, Brody's Blueberries, all these folks sharing is really generous and really helps other farms to see, okay, I guess it wasn't that hard to write an SOP, or that's a good idea. It's just sharing ideas is a great way to move forward with this program. Okay, so we're coming to the end here. We encourage folks who are watching this video to consider applying for the Jumpstart program. We are giving preference to smaller farms in Maine or New Hampshire. We will consider fully covered farms, fully covered by the Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA, but we're geared up really for small and medium-sized farms. The application link is on the website. It's here. And actually, if you just Google Jumpstart Farm Produce Safety, you'll come to the website. Good going, you, Maine, for I forget what they call that. It shows up right away on the web search. So we encourage you to either contact us or go ahead and apply on that website. And for more information, again, the website, Mary Choate, Hob, Machado is there. And again, if you put food safety, Maine, I'm sure you'll come to Hob and Adwoa's information. And same thing with UNH Extension, Food Safety, you'll come to my contact information if you don't get it off of this slide here. So I guess, that's it. That was short and sweet.
Yep, that was great.
Anything else? Again, thank you, Sue, for joining us. That was fantastic information that you shared. Thanks for letting us do that.
Yep, and thank you everyone for watching this.
I look forward to seeing you on your farm.
I have a quick question for Sue. Just if I'm a farmer wanting to implement these, in terms of timeline and time-wise, how easy is this fitting this in your schedule? And with the logbook that you have, how often, though you have it there, how often do you get people to fill it out, the implementation itself?
You're
muted.
I'm the only one who works on our farm, so I'm the one who's going to make sure it gets done. So that's helpful. I believe you would have to have, systems in place to make sure that those things are, or like some sort of check-in on a weekly basis, make sure things are being filled out is what I assumed. And there are days where I go back and go, oh, I forgot to check those boxes when I did that yesterday because I was tired. So I go back and do that. However, what I have also found, to Hob's example as well, is off season, when I have time to sit and think about these things, I made SOPs for salad greens, head lettuce, and egg washings, because those are, in my mind, 3 separate ways to do things. We do things differently on the farm. And there were some of the major, I would say the lettuce and the salad greens are some of the major crops that we put out every week. And if I couldn't, harvest anything else, those are the things I still want to get to my customers. And so if I wasn't able to be there, I want to make sure someone else could. So I also found it just to be really helpful to kind of put down on paper what I'm doing. We're implementing the use of a paper pot transplanter this year, and the seeding system with that is completely different than just using 72s. And as I'm doing it, I'm already thinking I need to make an SOP so I remember how to do this next year when I start again in February. So yeah,
great.
I think the off season is really helpful. That gives me time and space to do that. And then Mary's really good about, she comes in, in the summer and kind of checks in and does an audit, which is great, kind of in real time. And we talk a little bit about the things that I can kind of start to put together and think about just in the season to kind of, mitigate any risks that she's noticed. And then in the fall, I can sit down when I have a little bit more time and start to kind of take some notes and write down some more stuff. And I, to be honest, have not completed the full food safety plan, but I've done a bunch of chunks of that with the hope that, perhaps this year we can finish that up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course.
Which, Sue, brings something very interesting for folks watching us is we say it's 10 farms per year, right? That's the most when we are going to focus the time helping you. But it doesn't mean 12 months after that, we say, like, we are not talking to you anymore. We are still extension folk. It's still part of our job to help farmers and anyone in the food industry, at least in my case. So it's like we will be really giving you as much as we can of our attention and time during that first year, but we will keep working with you for as long as you need help. So it's not like, it's just like we cannot overwhelm ourselves and not be able to help anyone. So we focus on 10 per year, but then we kind of start this relationship that hopefully will go for years.
Yeah, in fact, that's a great point. So Sue did her SOP all by herself, very proud of her. I had a Jumpstart Year 1 farm that called me just a couple weeks ago and was ready to do their SOPs, to start working on SOPs. So we did a Zoom, and I put up the blank template for SOPs, and I said, okay, tell me what you do. And I did this first one for them. And then yesterday, they sent me another SOP that they had done. So it was, once you do it, right? So once you do it, like doing an SOP is not like, oh, what a drag. It's like you did it. So you know that it's helpful, takes a little bit of time. And that's what they found out too. I was so pleased that they did another one right away. So we can help you to get going. That's what Jumpstart is about. It's like a Jumpstart. Like we can get you the resources we need, get you started, and then then you can move on from there. Having done it once, you can do it. I mean, not that we're going to drop you, like Hop said, we're there. We're extension. We're there whenever you need us. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I found too is, I mean, with farming where we're and then more in the northern, we don't have a winter crop. I don't keep a winter crop. I keep those the snowy months, not farming. So I do lose some of the kind of procedures and processes that I do throughout the year that are kind of part of my like everyday memory. And having an SOP just helps me jumpstart back into my season. It was really cheesy. Back into my season without having to kind of remember and put all those pieces back together. It's just really helpful to have it all down on paper.
Great. Well, thanks, Sue. And thanks, everybody. We're going to use this. This will be a great tool to introduce folks to Jumpstart for people who are looking to do year 2. So thanks to everybody for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate all the help. I really do. And I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Good night. Goodbye.